Are we back? Raise the hands if we have audio. All right. So as soon as I make the announcement that audio rarely ever cuts out, we lost all audio. How about that? Try to dial in on a hard phone line. That didn't work either. So I'm going to go ahead and blame GoToWebinar, but we'll suck it up. I've got 7 minutes to make up here, so I'm going to jump right back in. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Murphy's Law, absolutely, Terry. So let's just push forward. Okay, as we go through today, don't get overwhelmed. We're going to start piling on the information. So we'll pile it on. You're going to learn more and more and more. And welcome back, everyone. I apologize about the technical difficulty, but you're going to learn more and more and more, and it's going to get really overwhelming. Don't get overwhelmed. I like to equate this to driving my first car. My very first car was a '69 Volkswagen Bug. Okay, it was a 4-speed. It had drum brakes all around. You had to pump them to fill them with fluid to get the thing to stop. It had holes in the floorboards. It was a mess, and I'd never driven a stick before, and I had to learn to drive a stick shift on the way home from purchasing that vehicle for $750. And it was overwhelming. Balancing the clutch and the accelerator, shifting, looking over my shoulder, checking the mirrors, everything you need to do to drive a car. There's so many things you got to pay attention to, so many things you need to do. It's overwhelming. But nowadays, we all drive from one side of town to the other or from state to state, and we don't even use our minds. We don't even think about it. We sometimes get to a location without realizing we even drove there. Okay? That's how the sales process is going to be. Don't get overwhelmed. Pick out one thing at a time and implement it. Once you feel really good with that, pick out one more thing and implement it. That's how you'll get the most success out of this thing. Okay? So today we're talking about advance agreements. Okay? Reminder, send in any calls you want reviewed on the Inside Sales Calls to callreview@midwestrev.com or amanda@midwestrev.com. And we're ready to go ahead and jump in. It looks like everyone's logged back on. We're going to jump back into this thing. So today's session structure, and this is the structure going forward, comprehension and application. I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions just to check comprehension, make sure we understand the science or the tools or the foundation behind the lesson so you can use it anywhere. And then we're going to switch and go into application mode. What's it sound like in our world? How do we actually use this stuff, okay? So here we go. Guys, salespeople, they don't want to hear no's, right? I mean, do we all agree we don't want to hear a no? The last thing we want to hear is a no. But here's the thing. It's not the no's that kill sales. Okay, it's the maybes and think it overs. You see, when you get a maybe or a think it over, what do you do with it? There's nothing you can do. You just sit and wait. But when you get a no, you can find out why it is a no. And we can get past that no or address that no. But if we don't get to a no, we've got nowhere to go. No more questions to ask. We just sit on our hands and we wait. So no's are not the issue. In fact, some of the best salespeople in the world get to the no as quickly as possible because it's much easier to sell out of a no than it is out of a maybe or a think it over. So today's session, we are going to eliminate maybes and think it overs forever. Okay? But that's not all we're going to do. What prospect behaviors, and here's our first question for the day, what prospect behaviors do advance agreements prevent? So I'll hang back. I'll let you guys type in some answers. I'm checking for comprehension. This lets me know how long to spend on each topic. Okay? So yeah, we prevent the maybes, but what other prospect behaviors that we don't like do these prevent? Canceling appointments, indecisiveness, absolutely. What else? Having to chase, not showing up, shopping the offer. Let them know it's okay to say no. Perfect. Them controlling the conversation. Guys, every one of those is absolutely right. Prospects that don't show up. Prospects that are late or don't respect your time. That get sidetracked. That don't want to cover your questions. Prospects that don't tell the truth, mislead, don't answer questions. And the biggie, again, maybes and think it over. Sales calls that end without a clear understanding of what should happen next. So these are the things that this lesson addresses. and it addresses them in a very simple, easy way. Okay? So how do advance agreements work? In other words, how do they help prevent those undesirable prospect behaviors? So again, this is a question tossed out to you guys, and I'm doing this for a reason. I'm checking comprehension because if we understand why the tool works, we're going to be able to apply this tool in many different facets of our business, in many different types of conversations. So I don't want to just teach you words and scripts. I want to teach you what's behind these tools so you can use those tools absolutely anywhere. So Rebecca says, set the framework for appointment and outcomes, sets expectations, helps them let their guard down. Confirming expectations before the appointment. Guys, absolutely. We all get a verbal agreement of why we're here and what the outcome will be if it goes well. Melinda, perfect. That is exactly it. We want to remove pressure from the situation, and we do that by setting proper expectations, right? When we don't know what to expect, we get a little nervous, right? I like to use the example of going into the doctor's office, right? If you went into your doctor's office and you never knew when this was going to happen, but the doctor occasionally spun around with a big needle and syringe in his hand and thrust it into your thigh or your shoulder or your stomach or somewhere, wouldn't you, without any warning, wouldn't you start going into every doctor's appointments just completely freaked out? I would. So we set expectations to remove that pressure because essentially that's what every other salesperson on earth does. So every prospect goes into that appointment full of that fear and that trepidation. So the first thing we want to do is remove that pressure by telling them exactly what to expect, just like the doctor does. The doctor says, hey, need a shot today? Flu's going around pretty bad, so I'm going to give you a quick prick in the shoulder. It'll be over before you know it. That's going to help prevent you from catching the flu this year. We do the exact same thing. We remove pressure by setting proper expectations. Now, when we do this, there's 3 pieces to this advance agreement. What are they? 3 pieces to the advance agreement. What do we want to hit every single time? Perfect. Time frame, agenda, next steps. So yeah, you're all wording it a little bit different. Get a yes or no. That's next steps. Time expectation, right? Agenda, next steps, what we're going to talk about. Absolutely agenda. So however you say it, there's 3 pieces to it. Time frame. People want to know, especially on the phone, is this going to be a long appointment, a short appointment? If you had a salesperson coming out to your house and you didn't know if it was a 10-minute or a 2-hour appointment, would you be reluctant to set up that appointment? Absolutely. We oftentimes get on the phone and when we first contact a seller lead and we start out with, hey, these calls usually last 5 or 10 minutes. Do you have that? And occasionally we get an answer like, no, actually I'm in the middle of something. Can you call me at 12:15? Or actually I'm walking into somewhere. So this prevents us from getting cut off in the middle of what we're doing. Prevents the prospect from saying, hey, will you just give me the price? So time frame is absolutely important to relieve pressure. Make sure you give yourself enough time to have the conversation you want. Agenda. What do you intend to accomplish during the meeting? And this needs to come from both your perspective and theirs. Of course, we've got our agenda, but do you think our prospects want to make sure the questions they have and the reason they called to begin with, that they're going to get the answers they're looking for? If they don't get those things, are they going to think that call or appointment was a good use of their time, and are they going to be willing to talk to us again? So we need to cover agenda. Here's exactly what we're going to do. And then finally, acceptable outcomes, what the next steps should be. And we always give them permission to say no. So you're going to hear this again and again and again. Yes is good, no is okay too. Yes is good, no is okay too. Okay? Now, we set this up so we say anything other than a yes is a no. But if it's a no, that's okay. So what this does is this, well, it does quite a few things. Let's actually jump a little deeper into yes is good, no is okay too. Okay? Why is permission to say no so important? Why is permission to say no so important with everything we do? So Jason says, helps them let their guard down, makes them comfortable, relieves pressure, relieves stress, makes them feel safe, takes the pressure away, removes the pressure, feels like they're not being forced. Hey guys, is that what we want them to feel? Right? Pressure to say yes results in prospects misleading you or hiding their objections or concerns. Okay? So when we pressure a yes, prospects mislead, they hide. When pushing for a yes, a prospect's psychological reactants will become activated, causing them to push even harder for a no. Now, we're going to cover psychological reactants in our overcoming resistance lesson, but the harder we push for a yes, the more they push back. Okay? Now, something else I want to talk to you about when it comes to yes is good and no is okay too. Okay? First of all, what sales scenarios or industries are known for high pressure, never take no for an answer sales tactics? Any of them come to mind? Cars. Cars. Absolutely. We bought 2 new cars last month. I'm a big car guy. Oh, timeshares. Huge. So here's my question to you. How do you feel about those scenarios and salespeople? Insurance, MLM, hate them, annoyed, abrasive, uncomfortable, run. Absolutely. So how do we protect ourselves from these scenarios and these types of salespeople? What do? We're bringing this all the way to the basics so we make sure we fully understand these concepts. Right, Melinda? We pull away. We control the conversation. Our guard is up. We hide. We don't let them know the whole truth. We say stuff like we're just looking. Right. Absolutely. So this is what we want to avoid making our prospects feel, right? That's why this is so important. We sometimes concentrate so much on the salesperson end and what we need to accomplish, we forget what we're doing to our prospects. Obviously, if our prospects are feeling those things you just typed in, what are we increasing our odds of closing a deal, or are we decreasing our odds of closing a deal? Are we increasing the chances we have a great sales conversation, or do we decrease it? Right, so that's why this tool is so important. It's really simple, isn't it? But huge impact on the sales conversations you have. Now, before we get into this piece, I want to touch on, you know what, let's go to this piece and we'll touch on it next slide. Ultimate advance agreement. So we talk about advance agreements, time frame, agenda, and outcome, but we also talk about what I call an ultimate advance agreement. Do you guys remember what that is? Perfect. It's your final advance agreement, a final yes-no decision within a predetermined time frame. In some industries, that's, hey, during this meeting, it's going to be a yes or no. Some of the real estate investors I work with, it's a 24-hour, 36-hour, 5-day, 7-day. That's going to be a business decision you need to make. But the bottom line is it's not open-ended, okay? The ultimate advance agreement is, are you committed to making a yes or no decision within a predetermined time frame? And when we get a little deeper in the sales process, you're going to see why this is even more important than what you might think it is right now. Some of the reasons it is so important is it prevents a prospect from going dark, okay? When we get I don't knows, what happens? I don't knows and think it overs mean that there's concerns and objections we have not yet addressed. We give an offer, they go dark, we never hear from them again. It also uses the power of psychological reactants to encourage the prospect to render a decision. When we take away their ability to make a decision, again, we're going to cover this in depth in another class, they push for that decision. Just like baseball cards, farewell concerts, jewels, diamonds, that type of thing, the less available something is, the more people want it, the more people value it, okay? Like playing hard to get, right? So when our prospects fail to give us a yes or a no, they're on the fence, and we give them that no, we'll see that they fight for the yes, and we uncover those deeply hidden concerns and objections. So this concept is going to help us make sure we never get maybes and think it overs, and that we uncover some of those really deeply held concerns and objections that they don't share with us. Once we address them, we can move forward. So raise a hands if this is making sense, everybody. Are we all on the same page? Everything making sense? Beautiful. Guys, great participation today. I absolutely freaking love it. Okay? So this always comes up every time we do this lesson. So I want to cover it here because I don't think I covered it in the video. Follow-ups. How many of you are afraid, hey, if I go for a no, if I give them a no when they say maybe or I need to think it over, then maybe that would turn into a deal, but now I've just shut the door on it. How many people are afraid of that? It's a legitimate fear, right? So somewhat, we've had a couple people raise their hands, so I always get that question. It's a legitimate fear. Here's the beauty of going for the no when we have ambivalence. Okay, when we go for the no, it actually is going to make our follow-up sequence and our nurturing sequences even more effective. Why? Because the prospect, they know they're not going to feel pressured for a yes. So put yourself back into that question we asked a few minutes ago. Those high-pressure salespeople, those people that we hate dealing with. When we walk off that car lot or out of that timeshare office or whatever it is, and we're back home, and our phone lights up and we see them on the caller ID, are we going to pick it up? Absolutely not, right? So when we go for the no, if we don't end up getting those objections and concerns out on the table that we otherwise wouldn't get out on the table, if it truly ends up being a no, we find out, but now it's going to make our follow-up sequence even better. You see, you can't lose. It makes everything better. Because now that the prospect knows they're not going to be pushed and pressured into a yes, by default it's always going to be a no, you can follow up and they'll answer those emails, they'll pick up those phone calls, they're not going to have that feeling of, oh, if I pick this up and I'm going to have to go through that same song and dance again. So going for the no doesn't stop us from our normal follow-up procedures. It's going to actually enhance them, okay? So I want to relieve that fear right now before we get any deeper into this. So, time frame, agenda, outcomes. Where can we use advance agreements in the sales process? Where can these be used? This is where we're going to start transitioning into the actual application. So where can we use these things? And I'll wait for some answers to roll in. I'll read them as they come in. So setting the appointment, onset of a phone call, beginning of the process, intake call and meeting, start of the call, beginning of a closing appointment at the start. So I'm seeing lots of stuff at the start. Here is where we can use them. At the beginning of a sales call, you all hit that, but also at the end of a sales call. So we're going to explain that a little bit. So the beginning or end of any call, really, whether it's a phone call, a face-to-face appointment, a first, second, third, fourth appointment, immediately before your presentation when you do that ultimate advance agreement, any beginning or end of any conversation, we can use these. So why would we use these at the end of a conversation? Real simple. We set ourselves up for success in the next step. So we're going to go over an example of exactly how to do that. Okay? So let's jump into our exercises. Let's start practicing. We might even do some role play if you guys are up for it. It will depend on who we have on the line and how open you guys are to jumping on and talking through some of this stuff with me. But let's get into some of the application. So I believe that you understand exactly how you use this, why you use it. So let's talk about how you use it, okay? One way we can establish an advance agreement or one place is at the start of an initial phone call. We use them, see them, hear them all the time being used effectively when talking to a seller for the first time, okay? So let's talk about how we can use it at the beginning of an initial phone call, okay? I'm going to go through an example so you can see some of this in action, okay? So an initial phone call might sound like this, and we use this every single day. Hey, typically people who contact us kind of want to know what we do, how we do it, how much we can offer for their house. Did you have those same types of questions? Great. Listen, besides that, was there anything else you were hoping to ask while you got me on the line here? There's agenda, mine and theirs. Lines out exactly what we're going to go over. Time frame. Hey, great. Do you have a few minutes? 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Now we know if we're going to be cut off, if they're going to bail out, if they're going to listen to us, or if we need to pick back up the phone and call them at a later time. right? We might get a little deeper into agenda. Hey, I'd like to ask you some questions about the property and your situation so I can get you those answers you're looking for. Is that okay? Perfect. We just gained permission. And next steps, including no. Hey, after we chat, you can decide whether or not to take the next step. If you want to, we'll decide what that looks like. If you decide there's no reason to move forward, perfectly okay too. All right? So that is one example. Those are my words. These are training wheels. We're going to go through a lot of scripts and stuff like that while we're together. Think of them as training wheels. I don't want you to become me and use my words, but it sometimes helps to see or use a script until you really learn and you start to put this stuff into your own words. It's going to be most effective when it comes from you the same way you talk, right? When you own it, when you really take ownership of it, and use the concept and not the script, that's when this is most powerful. Now, it's going to be powerful from the start, but to get the most out of it, it's going to take practice, and you're going to need to recraft it and make it your own. So, guys, how does that sound? Give me some feedback. What are our thoughts right now? Give me some feedback. Okay, pretty basic, absolutely. And essential, absolutely. So, that is our first run through. Here's what I want to do. If there's no volunteers, that's okay. But does anyone want to hop on the phone with me? I can unmute you and go through an advance agreement. And let me preface it by saying you don't have to make anything up. Simply read it off the screen. I just want to hear the audience to hear other people using it, and I want you to see what it's like the first time you do it. It's gonna be a little choppy, and you're gonna realize that you have to use your own words. But Darren Smith says, "Hey, let's do it." So Darren, let's see if your audio is working. It's always a crapshoot with GoToWebinar. So let me unmute you, and we'll see if this works. Darren, do I have you?
Yes, you do.
Hey, awesome, and you sound fantastic. Beautiful. So pretty simple. I just want, and thank you for doing this. I know it takes some guts, but in order for us to get good at all these concepts, we're all going to have to practice it. And that first time with these words leaving your lips, it's always the hardest. So would you do us all a favor and just read through it one time?
Sure, the whole thing or just the first part?
Whole thing, and I'll just answer. I'll role play with you. I'll just answer as if I was a prospect.
All right. All right. Good morning. This is Darren calling. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Darren.
That's great. Typically, people who contact us want to know what we do, how we do it, how much we can offer for their house, those kind of things. Do you have those same types of questions?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to know.
Great. Besides that, was there anything else you were hoping to ask?
Yeah, I have some questions about, my house is in kind of rough shape, so I'll have some questions kind of about if you guys work with those houses or not.
Sure. Be happy to go over that. That sounds great. Did you have a few minutes right now?
Yeah, I've got about 10 minutes.
Okay. I'd like to ask you some questions about the property and your situation so I can get you the answers you're looking for. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect. After we chat, we can decide whether or not to take the next step, and if so, what that would look like. So if you decide, there's no reason you have to take any kind of next step, that's perfectly okay too.
Perfect. So thank you, sir. Round of applause via web for Darren. Absolutely awesome. Great job. Thank you, sir. We really appreciate it. So let me go ahead and throw you back on mute here if you haven't already. Here we go. All right. So guys, what you probably noticed is these weren't Darren's words. Darren did an excellent job, absolutely great job. But what you might have noticed is there were a couple of times where Darren had to navigate the script because he didn't write these words. Even when I write the words myself, I write differently than I speak. So even when I write out my own script, I have to read through it a few times and change it because I'll write it one way, then when it leaves my lips, I go, that doesn't sound like me. I write like that, but I don't speak like that. So it's going to take some time, but it can be effective right out of the gate. So if you get your callers who are calling in, sometimes in rough situations, distress situations, don't know what to expect, might even have a negative perception of what you do. Do you think starting out a call with something similar to this, hitting, however you want to say it, hitting time frame, agenda, and outcome, do you think that's going to help set the tone for a right conversation? And give me your honest feedback. This is not about stroking my ego. This is about getting better sales results. So that's what it's all about. If you have concerns, or you have more questions, or we need to dig into stuff deeper, let me know. I promise you this: you won't hurt my feelings. This is about open, honest communication. So I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. So great job. Let's move on to another exercise. Okay. Remember, I told you we can also establish advance agreements at the end of our steps, the ends of our conversation. So why would we do this? Here's why we would do it. If we finished up that phone call and our next step was going to be an on-site visit, that's a pretty big step. So we wrap up our phone call, setting an advance agreement for the next appointment, letting them know exactly what to expect, so they're more likely to keep that appointment, not push it off. Okay? Make sure that they schedule enough time for that appointment. Okay? When I listen to phone calls and I hear people who don't set an advance agreement at the end of the call for what the next step is what they're gonna experience, sometimes prospects just keep quiet, and that's where we get cancellations, no-shows, reschedules. But if they're a little more aggressive, you hear, whoa, what are you going to do? Are you coming out? Who's coming out? How long is it going to take? They're naturally going to ask these questions anyways. Better if we just be professional, tell them exactly what to expect, because not everyone's going to be aggressive. Not everyone's going to be dominant. Not everyone's going to ask us what to expect. If they don't know and they have that fear, they might just cancel or not show up. So here's what it sounds like. Okay? Hey, Bob, when I come out, I'll need to take a look at the property, chat with you a little bit about your situation so I can make sure I really take everything into consideration when I put together your offer. The visits usually last about 30 minutes to an hour, and you're going to have the exact offer before I leave. Is that okay? Hey, perfect. Listen, was there anything else you were hoping to talk about while I'm there that I need to take note of so I'm prepared? All right, perfect. Listen, if you like the offer, we can put it in writing that day and sign off on it then. But if for any reason you're not ready to take that next step, then that's completely okay too. We just consider that a no, shake hands, and part friends. We really don't expect to buy every property we look at. So, question for you. Do you guys think if we start ending our phone calls like this, we can set up ourselves or our acquisition agents or whoever's going out for that property? Do you think we can begin to set them up for the greatest likelihood of success right here? Got some yeses. Okay. Does anyone currently use anything like this right now? So Jason says yes, but shouldn't you end on a positive note? You absolutely can. So you can toss, oftentimes we hear people toss in stuff like, either way, we're going to take care of you. Whether we're the ones who buy your house or not, I can guarantee you this. You'll know exactly kind of what way to go and what you need to do by the time we leave there. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we just need to solve their problem. They don't know what they're going to do with the property, where to go, so they want to make sure that they have their questions answered by the time we leave. So, hey, if it works out, great. If not, no sweat. We don't buy every house we walk into, but I guarantee you this, by the time we leave, you'll know exactly what you need to do and be pointed in the right direction, whether it's with us or not. Sound fair? Awesome. So, let's move into a little more role play. Anybody want to either read this, try to put it into their own words, go back and forth a little bit, play with it a little bit? Who wants to, because here's the deal, guys. Either we're going to do it on the phone, here in this environment where it's nice and safe, or you're going to need to do it in your office and role play, or at home in front of the mirror. If you wait to use this till you're on the phone or in front of a prospect, chances are you're just not going to do it, right? There's a lot of pressure there. It's always good to get this out a few times and kind of practice it before we're in that real world scenario. So awesome, guys. I had a ton of people volunteer to do it. I'm just going to have to go with the first one, and I'll get to the rest of you soon. But Arthur, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Let me find your name in this list real quick, and let's check the audio. Arthur, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, John. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, loud and clear. So thank you, sir. Always takes a lot of guts to hop on these calls. I sincerely appreciate it, and I know everyone else on the call does too. So let's go ahead. You can read it off the page here. You can put your own words into it. This is just to get some practice for you for the first time, and then it also kind of gives the rest of the people on the call permission to go for it. And I want to set the expectation. This is the first time Arthur has ever done this, so I would expect him to goof up a little bit. Even when I read my own words, I goof up. That's the expectation. If he doesn't, he's ahead of the ball game. So whenever you're ready, sir, I'll role play along with you, and we'll just knock this out.
Okay, great, John. So when I come out, I'm going to need to take a look at your property and then chat a bit about your situation so I can make sure that I can take everything into consideration when I put together your offer.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Great. So, John, these visits usually last about 30 minutes to an hour, and you'll have the exact offer before I leave. Will that be okay?
Yeah, that's exactly what I need.
Okay, good. So, was there anything else you were hoping to talk about while I'm there that I should know about so that I'm prepared?
My sister-in-law always helps me make these types of decisions. Is it important if she's there?
Yeah. Anyone that's going to be involved in the decision-making process on this should be present. Just that way, we can address all your concerns right there and answer any questions with them. We can all make sure that this is a great fit for everybody.
Okay. Good.
So, John, if you like the offer, we can put it in writing and then sign off on it then. If for any reason you're not ready to take that next step, then that's completely okay. We just consider that a no, shake hands and part friends. We don't expect to buy every property we look at.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir. Very good. So did that feel a little unnatural to you? I'm guessing it did.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so natural. So you can see where you want to start putting in your own words, but I'm going to throw you back on mute. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Everyone's giving you a go, Arthur. A nice job. Beautiful job. So, guys, don't worry right now about no is okay. I know a lot of us don't want to give our prospects permission to say no, but when we get a little deeper into the sales process over the next 1, 2, and 3 weeks, we're going to go deep into uncovering that motivation and creating a huge sense of urgency to take action, okay? But we're not going to be able to have that conversation and get that deep and create that urgency if our prospects are in kind of defense mode, right? If they're holding all their cards close to their chest, they're not willing to open up, they feel that pressure. So we've got to open the door to open, honest conversation, and then we can get to the guts of this thing. We can get deep into motivation and get them just itching to take action. We're going to actually get them to we call it pain, but pain can mean all kinds of things, good or bad. But they'll be in a pretty immense state of pain. And what do we do when we're in pain? We want that pain to go away. So you're going to learn over the next few weeks how to get your prospects there, not create pain, but put them in touch with what they're already experiencing, but maybe never consciously articulated before, and we're going to get them to take action. So, but this is how we set ourselves up for success. Does anyone else want to give this one a go? Anyone else want to volunteer and knock it out? Either read it or put it into your own words? So shoot me a quick message if you want to try this, or else we will, some of you don't have mics, that's okay. Okay, no takers on that one, that's okay, we got more to get through, so let's push through. Okay, so I want to go through all of the common situations here. So What's one way we can establish an advance agreement at the beginning of an on-site sales call? First of all, raise a hands. How many of you are going on-site to buy houses, sell houses, meeting face-to-face with prospects? Let me see a good raise of hands here so I know exactly how many of you I'm talking to. Okay, looks like we've got, okay, a half to maybe a little more than a half, maybe 3/4. So Michael says literally in 40 minutes. Okay. So what's one way we can establish an advance agreement at the beginning of an on-site sales call? Before I push into the next slide where I've got some kind of a script prepared, does anybody want to take a whack at how they do this, just knowing time frame, agenda, and outcome? Here's a clue. It will sound very much like the one we used to wrap up the phone call, right? The last advance agreement to wrap up the phone call. We're simply going to repeat it. Okay? No one's ready to be put on the spot. That's okay. I was just seeing if I had anyone really gutsy out there. But I'll go into the example and then we'll play with it a little bit. Okay? Arriving on site, you're going to notice we're just repeating what we mentioned on the phone to them. We're building some consistency here, some trust, and we're telling them exactly what to expect. So, of course, it would be the same. We're not going to tell them one thing on the phone and then something else in the, once we arrive on site, right? No bait and switch. So, hey, Frank, when we set up this meeting on the phone, or when you talk to Pat on the phone and they set up this meeting, I believe you set aside or agreed to set aside about 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Does that still work for you? Cool. Listen, I was hoping you could show me around a bit. I'd like to ask you some questions about your situation, so I make sure I completely understand what you need. Is that going to be okay? Hey, anything else you were hoping to talk about, or anything else, any questions that came up since we talked last that you want to ask me while I'm here today? So that's time frame and agenda. Now, I've got to pause here, ultimate advance agreement. So here's why I broke it up like this. Sometimes, I've seen this done both ways, very effectively each way. Sometimes we do the outcome right here. Sometimes we do it usually as we're sitting down to discuss the offer after we do a walkthrough. Some people will do it both times. So I kind of have a cutoff right here. You can do it here, you can do it later, you can do it both, you can do one or the other, doesn't matter, but here's what it sounds like. Hey, great. Listen, is there anything else, or if there's anything as I walk through that I see that's going to be a deal breaker for me, I don't foresee that happening, but if I see anything, I'm going to let you know immediately. Can you do the same for me? If at any point while we're talking you feel like there's no need to move any further, will you be okay at letting me know? What do we do right here? We just gave them permission for objections. Hey, if we don't discover anything that's going to stand in the way of me being able to make an offer to you, you'll have the offer before I leave today. If you feel good about everything after we chat, will you be able to give me a clear yes today? Hey, great. Listen, I don't buy every house I walk into, so if after we talk you decide not to sell, that's no big deal at all. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I only want to buy this property if you want to sell it. How's that sound, everybody? Do you think this sets clear expectations? All right, great question, Melinda. What if they can't give a clear yes? This is amazing. Great question. So if they can't give you a clear yes, what does that tell you? Are you going to spend an hour doing that? You want to find out why not. Is there a missing decision maker? Is there something that's going to stand in the way? This is going to tell you, it's going to give you the information you need to know right now. Instead of being surprised at the end of the sales call, do I need to reschedule? Do I need to modify my next steps in any way? If there's a missing decision maker, do you want to find out right now and reschedule? Or do you want to find out after you get this whole thing, give your offer, and then they say, all right, now I got to talk to my sister, who, by the way, you have no idea what she's thinking about, what's a good or bad deal to her, what she wants to accomplish. And now you're leaving it in my hands to sell to her. Right? How are we going to maximize everything we do here? Is how do we stack the cards in our favor, the odds in our favor? How do we maximize our chances for success on every single sales call? And this is a big piece of it. But every class that we have week by week, we're going to give you another chunk to help you maximize your chance of success. And when you put all these things together, you're going to see you start to have a lot of successful sales calls. And part of this is also, what's your most valuable resource? So that's a question I have for you guys. What's your most valuable resource? Out of everything you have, time. Do you want to spend 30 to 90 minutes with someone that can't give you an answer? Or do you want to reschedule and save yourself the time for a prospect who truly is qualified? Right? And beyond that, even if we had plenty of time, if we go through the whole sales process now, lose all of our sales assets and our leverage, you may not have time to do it the right way. And you might lose a sale you otherwise could have gotten. So Melinda, absolutely fantastic question. What if they say they can't give you an answer? Would you want to know now, or do you want to know at the end of the sales call? Right now, right? We all do. So this is how we start digging into this. So let me give you another example of maybe a way you could phrase it when you come on site for the first time. So, hey Bob, when Jeannie set up this meeting on the phone, I think you guys agreed to set aside about an hour. Does that still work for you? So let's go back to Melinda's question again. What if they say no? Do you want to know right now? Well, I've only got 5 minutes for you. Just take a quick look at me, your offer. Do you want to know this right now? Or do you want to know this 10 minutes in where he says, hey, listen, I appreciate it, but how long is this going to take? I got to go. That's a legitimate question for you guys. When do you want to know? Now, or do you want to be surprised? See, surprises on sales calls, not good. They're not good for our prospects. That's why we set those expectations. And we don't like those surprises either. This is how we are systematically putting a process in place to maximize every possible sales interaction. This is going to be a machine, right? A step-by-step process you can follow to maximize your odds of closing every deal that's closable. So let's move into the next piece. Hey, during the visit, I'd like to ask you some questions about your situation so we can figure out if we can help you or not. I also want to take a look around the property so we can come up with an exact offer for you today. Will that be okay? You might notice that we ask things like, will that be okay, a lot. You see, we do that because when our prospects give us permission, we can do anything we want to. So, question from Jake. So we reschedule if they say they only have 5 minutes? Well, that's a question for you, but what my experience has taught me, is absolutely yes. Unless your process is going to take 5 minutes, reschedule, or else you're setting yourself up for failure. I've got some recordings. I'll let you hear one of the best in the business out of Colorado. If the decision makers aren't there, they don't have the time, he reschedules every time. He's about 10 years in this business. He's on track to do 50 deals this year. Why do you think he asks this stuff up front and reschedules? It wasn't because he was trained by me. Why do you think he does this? Exactly, guys. He knows what the outcome is. It's never good, right? It's never good. He knows his best chances of closing deals when he's taken those appointments and tried to work with it. They never ended up closing. So we got into a training arrangement later, and he said, geez, now I get, that makes sense. I do that. And guys, as we go through this, a lot of the stuff we go over, you're going to say, you know what? I've heard that, or I say that, or I do something like that. I just never really thought about why it was so effective. I just started saying it and doing it after so many times or years or appointments. What we want to do is take all those things that worked, turn it into a tool so we can deploy that tool and use it wherever and whenever necessary. So yeah, and Amy says can't build a relationship in 5 minutes. However, some people don't want all the fluff. They just want the basics quickly. So yeah, Amy, good point. And if that's the prospect you're dealing with, when do you want to know? Do you want to know that they're not the kind of fluff people, that they're only going to give you 5 minutes no matter what now? Or do you want to know when you're 5 minutes into your 45-minute appointment, right? The more information we have quicker, the better we can adjust, the better we can be prepared, the better we can change our game plan or modify our next steps. But we can't do any of those things until we know, right? No surprises for our prospects, no surprises for the salespeople. Okay, Rebecca Shea says, just heard someone say this morning, that the top agents are the ones that can evaluate the personality of the client up front and adapt to it. So right, the more information we have, the better. The more information we have, the quicker, the better. So let's move into the next piece. Hey, anything else you want to talk about while I'm here today? Listen, I'll be able to tell you for sure today whether I'm able to make an offer or not. Everything's pointing to yes, I should be able to make you an offer. If it looks like the home doesn't fit what I'm looking for some crazy reason though, I'm not going to give you a maybe and just keep you wondering. I'll let you know, if I do, I'll have a solid offer for you. If there's something standing in the way, I'm not going to leave you with a maybe or I'll think it over. I'm just going to tell you, hey, I can't buy this house. Will you be able to do the same for me? Will you be comfortable giving me a very clear no if for some reason the timing's off or it just isn't a right fit? Hey, I appreciate that. And will you be able to give me a clear yes, you can buy my house if this makes sense and moving forward makes sense to you? So we're establishing that expectation and while doing it, taking off the pressure for the yes. Okay, so just same exact tool, different words. Does anyone want to give this one a shot or the one before the shot? Anyone want to read it out loud or put this into your own words? All right, so Terry, we'll get to you. I want to answer a question real quick. All right, Terry, I think, have you already gone? We'll go to Jason if you have. Do you address the maybe? Yeah, so one way I hear this addressed all the time is they explain the maybe. Hey, I'm going to be sure not to give you just a maybe because that doesn't put you in any better of a spot. Right? You don't know, I'm not going to put you in that position. You're going to have a clear answer from me today. Can you do the same for me? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Now, oftentimes you're still going to get a maybe or think it over. We're going to cover that in a second. So Terry, I'm going to pop over to you. Let me scroll down in my list and find you. Okay, Terry, can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha. How you doing, John?
All right. Great, Terry. Do you want to do the second version or the first version or just try to put it in your own words?
I'll just do the second version here.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead whenever you're ready. I'll just play along.
All right. Well, John, when Molly set up this meeting on the phone, I believe you all agreed to set aside an hour. Does that still work for you?
Yeah, I got an hour.
Okay, great. Great. And during our time together, I want to ask you some questions about your situation so we can figure out if this will help you or not. And I'd like to take a look around the property, if you'd be so kind to show it to me, so we can come up with an exact offer for you today. How does that sound?
That's exactly what I need.
Okay, great. And John, was there anything else you were hoping to talk about or ask me while I'm here today?
No, nothing comes to mind.
Okay. Well, great. With that in mind, I'll be able to tell you for sure today whether I'm able to make an offer or not. And John, if it looks like the home doesn't fit what I'm looking for, I won't give you a maybe or keep you wondering. I'm going to let you know. And if it does, I'll have a solid offer for you today. Now, will you be able to do the same for me, John? Will you be comfortable giving me a no if timing or fit just isn't right?
Oh, yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay, that's great. And will you be able to give me a yes if that makes sense for you to move forward?
Sure, yeah. If it makes sense, it makes sense. So good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Terry. Obviously, as you go on, you're going to put this into your words, and Terry's going to own this, and it's probably going to sound a lot different than mine. But how did it feel with the first run-through, Terry?
I mean, it felt fine. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely practicing will cause it to feel more natural.
Right. So, and thank you so much. So, yeah, the more times you read through all this, you'll notice that you start swapping out this word for this word. You might even start swapping out sentences. Again, the words don't matter. It's the concept. We want to set expectations to remove fear and anxiety. We want to set the right expectations as far as yes is good and no is okay too. We want to make sure we've got enough time and nothing standing in the way. We want to uncover any objections that might come out to bite us in an hour right now, like the decision makers aren't here, or I don't have the time or anything like that. So it's the tool. The tool and the concept is where the power lies. The words can change. The words can be whatever you want. And you'll notice in your business, they'll change, and you'll adopt your own verbiage. All right, so holding firm to the advance agreement. How will you handle the final maybe I think it over? Guys, you are going to do everything right, and occasionally at the end, you are still going to get a maybe or I need to think it over. Okay? It's going to happen. So here's one. I pulled this directly from a call recording that was sent in to me. It was a woman out of the Midwest, and she records her phone calls for me, or excuse me, this was an on-site appointment. And she went through everything and got, well, I don't know, we need to talk to the CPA. There's a couple other people looking at the house. And here was her response, okay? Sticking strong to the advance agreement. And, you know, I'll tell you right now, it turned into a deal. They went ahead and signed right there. It uncovered the last couple hidden objections and concerns. And, you know, let me pause right here. Would you guys like it if I took the recording of that appointment and put it in Dropbox for you guys to listen to? All right. Okay. So I'm going to put that recording, so you're going to hear this in action. Okay. She was a new client, new to us, didn't work with her very well, so she didn't have the entire sales process down, but she stuck to that advance agreement. And you'll see how it uncovered. You're gonna hear a lot of emotion in it because she uses an emotional sale that we're gonna teach you. But you'll see that she uses just a few words, and the prospects sell themselves, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'll get that to you today. But here's what you're gonna hear. Okay? Hey, listen, I can appreciate that. I know it's a lot to think about, but if you're still not comfortable saying yes after all we've talked about, I'm going to have to consider the think it over or no, but that's completely okay. You know, I have more houses I need to see this week, so I can't really leave an open-ended contract behind, and I really don't want to buy this property if you don't want to sell. Sounds to me like you're probably just not ready to sell yet, and that's okay. So I think her wording is just a little different. She says something like, listen, I have more houses to see this week, so if I buy this one, I might not buy one of those, and vice versa. If I buy one of those, I might not be able to come back and buy this one. So that's kind of why I asked if we could make a clear yes or no decision today. And that's kind of where I'm at. She left it there. And then you're going to hear the prospects convince themselves using the motivation and urgency she dug up earlier in an earlier phone call, actually, all that emotion, and that emotion will urge them to take action, and then you'll hear how they logically justify the emotional decision they just made. You hear everything we teach, this whole concept, you hear it play out in a live environment. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So you're going to get a little sneak peek there. I'll get over to you today. Guys, I'm 1 minute over. That's where we stopped today. Was this a good class? Was this a good use of your time? Did we take anything away from this? All right, we got a ton to get through, so let me know anything you need. Reach out, email, Voxer, whatever you have, any questions you have. I'll work with you. Love to do it. I'll get that call recording out to you. I'll probably throw some notes on there too with some time so you can fast forward or listen to specific pieces. Guys, I absolutely love doing this. Thank you for giving me the chance to work with you all. I'll talk to you all very soon. Reach out if you need anything at all. Bye-bye.